Ever since the release of Rainbow Six Siege, I think a lot of people have been talking about what the future looks like for this franchise moving forward. And with the more so recent than not the announcement of Rainbow Six Quarantine, where does this leave Rainbow Six Siege, and does this leave it as that Rainbow Six Siege is going to be its own thing for the foreseeable future and we won't see a sequel to Siege? Or does it mean that maybe Siege is coming after Quarantine? Let's talk about it. In an article, guys, that was written by Alex Avard of Games Radar, don't expect Rainbow Six Siege 2 anytime soon, but a PS5 and Xbox Series X re-release is almost certain. Easily one of the most successful adherents of the games as a service business model so far, Ubisoft's Rainbow Six Siege released in 2015 and has been going strong ever since, with regular updates, expansions, and community engagement for the esports focused competitive shooter. With that in mind, Ubisoft doesn't want to pump the brakes on Rainbow Six Siege's success with a potential sequel for the impending PS5 and Xbox Series X consoles, with brand director Alexander Remy recently telling the Daily Star that the developer is viewing next-gen hardware as a high-end PC versus any other PC. We don't want a sequel whatsoever, Remy continued, explaining that the reason behind this is we don't want to segregate our community between the different platforms. In an ideal world tomorrow, we'd love players from every platform to be able to play together. We are approaching next-gen with the same spirit. So here's what's kind of interesting about that. They say that they don't want a sequel whatsoever. They want to kind of keep everyone together and playing together. What's interesting about that, though, is with Rainbow Six Quarantine coming out, that's still going to kind of split the community somewhat, because some people are going to play Rainbow Six Quarantine who also might have already played Siege, and then vice versa, right? There might just be people who play Quarantine for a while and come back over to Siege. So it's kind of interesting that they're talking this way. It kind of reminds me of League of Legends. Riot Games always said that we're never going to make a sequel to League of Legends. At least that's what they've said, is that they won't ever, make a sequel there. It sounds like the same thing here with Rainbow Six Siege. They're not going to make a sequel to Rainbow Six Siege. Maybe they would go back to Rainbow Six Vegas or do something altogether different. But it sounds like they just want to focus on Siege as far as this game as a competitive shooter. Maybe Quarantine's not necessarily going to be that. It's more going to be like for casual gamers and casual players who really enjoy the Rainbow Six series. With that in mind, it's likely we'll see Rainbow Six Siege either ported, released, or remastered for the next generation of consoles, alongside backwards compatibility for the current versions of the game on PS4 and Xbox One, and potential crossplay support across all the different platforms. According to Remy, Ubisoft has been asking, how can we make the player base of Siege today be able to migrate, if they want to migrate that is, but also make this cheaper as much as possible, or through backwards compatibility. The strength of any multiplayer game is the size of its community. So look, guys, I think what it comes down to, I think the real big talking points here and the things that you need to kind of pay attention to here is that it doesn't sound like they are working on a Rainbow Six Siege 2 at this point. So where is this game at this point? Right now, it's definitely probably not something that is being talked about, really even mentioned much. They're just focused on bringing out new operators and seasons and all of those things, or I should say years of new content for Rainbow Six Siege. And then with Rainbow Six Quarantine, this is hopefully where we're going to see a campaign, a fully fledged out campaign mode. And it looks like there are characters from Rainbow Six Siege in Rainbow Six Quarantine. So I don't know if there's going to be, somewhat or another, there's going to be these two worlds are going to kind of clash or collide or just merge it one way or another in Quarantine. But what I'm hoping for from Quarantine, guys, is what I didn't get in Siege. I didn't get a campaign mode in Siege. It was pretty much just those operator missions that didn't last that long. And obviously, I would like to have a multiplayer with Quarantine, but I think more so than that is a co-op modes where you can take on waves of enemies, or you can play the missions together as a group. I think that would be something really cool, like something totally different from Siege, not necessarily a continuation of Siege, but something totally on its own. And that's exactly what I think Quarantine is. Now, that being said, would I want to see a Siege 2 at some point? Absolutely. And I would love to see Siege 2 come out, in the next, couple of years, probably on, like I said, it would be nice to be on the PS5 as well as the Xbox Series X. I hope they wouldn't, be only on PC or something. I doubt they would ever do that anyway. But nonetheless, I'd like to see a Siege 2 at some point or another, but it sounds like they just want to continue kind of supporting Rainbow Six Siege, and maybe that's going to be the best thing for them at this point because it doesn't really have a campaign. It's basically just a multiplayer experience, and they just consistently are updating it, and it's become a very popular game, and it's been growing in the esports scene as well. So we'll have to kind of wait and see, guys. Once we get our hands on Rainbow Six Quarantine, we'll have a better idea of what the future might look like with Rainbow Six Siege 2, if that would be something that could potentially happen, or like a Vegas 3 or one of these other, of course, sub-series of the overall franchise of Rainbow Six. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Would you want to see a Rainbow Six Siege 2, or do you think they just need to continue supporting Rainbow Six Siege? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And for more Rainbow Six Siege 2 videos and content, stay here with Zero TV.